Hello, welcome. My name is Diane Whitmore-Schanzenbach. I'm the director of the Institute for Policy Research here at Northwestern, and I've been asked to reconvene us for the second day of the 2019 Yidan Prize Conference Series in the Americas here at Northwestern University. Yesterday, we learned about the important new work that our Northwestern laureate, Larry Hedges, will be conducting. The Yidan Prize honors a researcher who has made outstanding accomplishments in education research with the ultimate goal of creating long-lasting impacts on the entire world. Larry's tireless championing of rigorous quantitative methods in education research has fundamentally reshaped the entire field of education research. His methodological contributions on meta-analysis and other aspects of education research have been transformative. At the same time, Larry has built the infrastructure to do more of this work through his teaching and mentoring, that is, by developing the next generation of talented researchers. Everywhere in this field, you can see his influence in building capacity to do more and better research on the most important questions in education. Yesterday, Larry Hedges and our colleague Beth Tipton announced that the Yidan Prize has catalyzed the creation of their new STEP Center to be housed at the Institute for Policy Research. The STEP Center will be a force for transforming the role of scientific research in education so that we can truly move to an evidence-based education, similar to the move that we've made in the recent decades to evidence-based medicine. As Larry said yesterday, science is the most important tool to improve people's lives, and we are proud that this center at this university, a university that is known for its path-breaking, multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary work on questions of great societal importance, will be making these contributions. The STEP Center will concentrate on building a system for creating, synthesizing, and disseminating research to improve methods for research on education and social policies. We heard from a panel that wrestled with questions about how to generate evidence that's reliable, relevant, and useful. And the STEP Center will push to improve the entire system for researchers, practitioners, and policymakers to work together through salons and other events where we interact and find common areas of interest and build toward collaborative work. Indeed, many of the conversations we have started at this conference will, I believe, lead to very important future work. Next, we heard from a panel with top experts from government and philanthropy about how to improve our overall system so that researchers are investigating the right questions and the evidence is being communicated and implemented by practitioners and by policymakers. Also, as educators of future teachers and future school administrators and policymakers, we were challenged to improve our students' ability to synthesize evidence, and we will be thinking a lot about how to do that. Finally, we heard from Wendy Kopp, the founder of Teach for America and Teach for All. She has been transforming education systems by developing education leaders equipped with the skills and vision to address and solve society's problems. She described the need to increase our investment in global knowledge sharing, which to my mind is exactly the type of work that the new STEP Center will conduct. We're all gathered with a common belief, as articulated by the Yidan Prize Foundation, in the power of education to change lives. Today, we turn to the fundamental issue of ensuring that people have access to education and the potential role for technology and other reforms to expand access to education. Northwestern is honored to host such a distinguished group of scholars and practitioners, and I would look forward to our continued conversations about how we can work together to dramatically improve global education. Now, I am honored to introduce the laureate of the Yidan Prize for Education Development for 2018, Anant Agarwal. He is the CEO of EDX, which is an online learning destination founded by Harvard and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He is professor of electrical engineering and computer science at MIT, and a member of the National Academy of Engineering, and a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He is also an award-winning entrepreneur and has turned his tremendous intellect and energy toward radically expanding access to education. Please join me in welcoming Anant Agarwal.
Thank you very much, and can you all hear me okay? I've been always very fidgety as a child, and my teachers always complained they could never have me stay in one place for more than 2 or 3 minutes, and so I much prefer to wander around. So good morning again, and thank you all very much for being here in this absolutely a beautiful space. You know, when Diane mentioned one of Larry's quotes, and by the way, Larry and I have become very close friends, and as we were taking pictures at the president's lawn yesterday, you know, we were just joking, we feel like brothers, and so one of the things you do with brothers is that you argue, and you know, I heard Diane mention one of Larry's quotes which said, "Science is an amazing tool we can use to improve people's lives." I would argue with that, or maybe Larry was just being modest. You know, I'm much more in sync with Nelson Mandela's quote, where he said, "Education is the most powerful tool we have to change the world." And so the beauty is that if we can bring education and science, education and technology together, we can truly reimagine education. And what we try to do at edX is apply digital technology to learning and to education to see how we can drastically reimagine how education is done at every level. You know, few would argue, education is a human right. Okay, no one's going to argue that, and everyone should have access to it like the air we breathe. But then, why do we behave as if it's not a human right? Why is our national debt, education debt, $1.5 trillion? Why is it that we have places like this? All right, what do you think this is? So this is not a rock concert. And the person standing there, that is not Madonna. So this is a classroom at the Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria. This is a classroom. Okay, and talk about access to education. You see how people crave education. You see a little chalkboard out there. And you know, we all know about education, but I promise you, if you're sitting way back, an in-person education, but I promise you, if you're sitting way back there, you know, this is distance education. So education, you know, really hasn't, access to education has been spotty around the world. In many countries, people don't have access to good quality education. In the US, we have incredibly high quality education, but it's expensive. And so how do we bridge the gap? And our focus is to think about how we can use technology to completely reimagine education. What is edX? edX is a nonprofit. We are a learning platform that is working with our partners to reimagine education. So we are a platform. What does a platform mean? In today's tech parlance, a platform is an organization that creates a hub where you can have consumers and producers meet in an incredibly scalable manner. Okay, so Amazon is a platform. Amazon connects people who want to buy stuff to people who have things to sell. How many here have used Amazon? Okay. How many here have used Lyft? How many here have used TripAdvisor? How many here have used Expedia? Okay, so these are all platform companies that have radically reimagined entire businesses. And let me not forget Tencent. You know, these are examples of companies that are platform technology companies that have radically transformed entire industries, bringing together by applying technology to retail, for example, have completely transformed various businesses. But education has remained immune. So our goal is, how do we apply the concepts of platform technologies to education? And what we do, so we built a platform, and we connect. In this platform, we connect people who can teach great stuff. Okay, so we partner with some of the top institutions in the world. Some of those are listed here, like the MITs and Harvards and Oxfords and Michigans and others that offer amazing courses and degrees and content on our platform. And we connect them to learners from all over the world that come in and learn on the platform. Okay, so it's a platform. What we've also done is we're a nonprofit, and as nonprofits, you excel in giving things away for free. So you can come to edX and you can learn for free, although we do have a plan for sustainability. Not only that, we've also given our platform away to the world for free. It's called Open edX. And so there are 3,000 instances of Open edX around the world. So it's as if, imagine if Google were to give away its search algorithm so that any country could launch their own Google site using Google's algorithm. That's what we've done. We've given our platform away to the world for free. And today there are 3,000 other sites around the world using Open edX. Now on edX itself, so we have a site called edX.org. And the reach of the edX platform, just the edX site that we have 20 million learners from every single country in the world learning on our platform. Okay, there's thousands of courses, 2,600 courses and counting on our platform. We have 142 global partners. 71 million courses have been enrolled in on our platform. And these learners come from everywhere. So it's 20 million on edX.org. Now remember, we've given our platform away to the world for free. And there's an additional 25 to 30, at least that we know of, million that are on the other given away edX software. So in all, conservative estimates are that there are 45 to 50 million learners studying on our platform, making this the world's largest education platform. And you know what? It's free. You can go to GitHub, you can download Open edX, and you can set up your own site that will compete with edX. That's what nonprofits do. We give things away for free. So just to give you a sense of where the learners and our partners are coming from, so here are some of our partners from USA and Canada. Of the 20 million, about 3 to 4 million learners are from the USA. About 500,000 are from Canada, and you see some of our partners from the US and Canada. We have a large number of learners from Latin America. There's 600,000 from Mexico alone, and there's 3 million learners from Latin America. I'll talk about some examples. IDB is the International Development Bank. They're also a partner of edX based in Latin America. But beyond all these numbers, it's important for us to understand why are we doing this. At the end of the day, it's really important to keep sight of the learner. Okay? The learner, the individual, is the one that we are looking to have the biggest impact on. And so with reimagining education, all of that stuff, it is really important to look at individual stories. And I'm going to start with a few stories. One of my favorite learners on edX is Contreras. So he is in Colombia, and this learner took a solar energy course from Delft University. He took the course, and he learned about solar energy and how to use solar systems and so on. And his village did not have electricity, and he electrified his village based on what he learned. Just boom. I mean, you can do things like this. And when I read stories like this, it is just insane what education can do. Just wait till you hear some more of these stories. So this is Erica. So Erica took courses in sustainability, water sustainability from International Development Bank. And then she's working with local nonprofit groups, and she set up water sustainability practices within her own community. Another example of a learner. She's based, again, in Latin America. Another class of learner, we're seeing more and more learners like Erica who are learning and applying the concepts. Andres Contreras, who's applying the concepts to improve the lives of their own village. Another example of a learner is Sam. So I'm sure many of you are hearing more and more about how the future of work is changing, how jobs, the whole world of jobs is changing. Where the jobs are in one area, people may have a degree in another area. So Sam is one such learner. So he's a BA in English. And he'd been hearing all the jobs in computer science. So what he did was he took computer science courses completely online from Harvard. And he used to be working in a bookstore, and he applied, and now he's working in software development at a software development company. People are reskilling and changing careers. There are high schoolers. Esther Jose is a learner from Chennai in India. And as someone who grew up in India myself, the education system in India, has a lot to be desired. It's a very rote-based learning, math and so on. A lot of it is rote-based. I'll give you an example. In a typical exam, let's say you have a chemistry experiment. A typical exam question in India would be, describe an experiment to do X. And so you write down the 16 steps of the experiment that you memorized to do X. However, to develop critical thinking, as my kids go to school in the US, they don't ask questions like that. They ask questions like, okay, in this experiment you saw this instead of this. What do you think caused that? And I know in the US we love to denigrate our own education system here and somehow talk about the amazing systems in the Far East and all the amazing math scores and so on. Trust me, we develop critical thinkers here, which is amazing. And having gone through, for my kids and others, it's much more critical thinking. So Esther Jose, she realized that a lot of the education system in India was rote-based. And so we have a large number of high school AP courses on edX, where AP courses are very spottily available to students in high school in the US. Just as an example, 80% of parents are demanding AP Comp Sci in their schools, and 90% of principals are saying they don't have the resources to offer AP Comp Sci. It's an amazing flip of resources and demand. And so we've launched 23 of the top enrolling AP courses on edX that high schoolers can take for free. They can learn, and then they can go and take the AP exam should they choose to. And so Esther, from Chennai in India, she took the AP Physics course from Boston University and completely online. And remember, this is not our grandfather's online learning. We're applying technology to education, and there's labs and using simulation and so on. And there are physics labs in these courses. Check out the BU AP Physics course. There's physics labs. You can do amazing things through simulation and technology today. And she aced her AP exam, and this is a slightly old slide. She's now in the US, continuing her education. Another example, Charles Gisso. So Burkina Faso is one of the poorest countries in the world, in Africa, and he took courses in public health, and he then secured a grant from Fulbright and pursuing his MPH at the University of Kentucky. Okay, so again, many stories of learners who've changed their lives from all reaches of the world. And to me, what keeps all of us going at edX as a nonprofit are these amazing stories of individual learners. So now let me get into how are we reimagining education? What are some of the things that we are doing? And in this part of the talk, it's going to be edgy. Okay, it's going to be scary. And as I was talking to my friend Larry earlier, this morning, I told him that I talk about transformation. I talk about how we need to completely reimagine how we do things. And I said, it can be scary. But Larry reminded me. He said, listen to this, but it always makes moral sense. So just keep that in mind if you begin to get worried about something. That make sure that how does it have an impact on you in terms of your moral compass? Okay, and everything that we do has to do with, is this the right thing to do or not, irrespective of how have we been doing things for the last 300 years. Okay, so one of the things that we've been doing is, if you go to universities today, our credentials are bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. However, learners all over the world are looking for more modular credentials. And so I'll talk more about modularity in a second. So we've launched professional certificate programs that are short sequences of courses. We've launched MicroMasters programs, which are sequence of courses at the graduate level that are credit-backed. And we've also now launched fully online degrees, 10 of them with a number of our partner universities that are shockingly disruptively priced. I'll talk about some of these as an example. So let's think about what might the future of education look like through transformation using technology. One of the things that I had done, we have a partnership forum called the EDX Global Forum every year. At the last Global Forum, I challenged our university partners with 5 reimagined goals for 2022. Okay, so let's commit to these 5 reimagined education goals inspired by the United Nations SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So we call them REGs, Reimagined Education Goals. And so the goals have to do with, 2 of the goals are with access and quality. And this has been the founding mission of edX to how do we create a quantum leap in increasing access to education for students everywhere in the world. And second, how do we create a major improvement, a discrete improvement in education quality at the same time. So this is at the heart of all that we do. But in this talk, I'm going to focus on 3 things. Goals 3, 4, and 5. Modular education, omnichannel education, and lifelong education. Okay, 3 things. Here are the 3 disruptive approaches, transformative approaches that we see that technology can enable that will really serve humanity. And in doing so, we will increase both access and quality. So let's talk about a modular education to begin. So what is modular education? Our education today is very stovepiped. You come to Northwestern, and you come to the beautiful building here, and you get an MBA. It's one stovepipe degree. But there are 10 times as many people out there looking for jobs or working in companies that may not have the time to spend a whole 2 years at a campus like this. They may not be able to afford the 6-figure the cost of a program like this. And they may have a family, they may be working. So how do you balance things like this? So for them, modular education is much more important. Can I get a piece of that education? So modular education says that can we take education and divide it into Lego-like blocks? Okay, it's like Lego education, divided into modular blocks, where I can take a piece of education. If I don't want the whole thing, hey, I can go and take a piece of education, and I get a credential for it. So, but this makes utter sense to me. So let me ask you a question, in case you're wondering, does it make sense? So let's say you go to, let's say you come to my own institution, MIT, and it's a 4-year undergraduate degree. And after the first year, you decided, for whatever reason, you learned enough, or you've had it, or you can't afford it, or whatever, and you leave. What do you call that person? A dropout. What else? A failure. A loser. But they've completed 1 whole year. Okay, they've got their butt kicked at a tough institute, and they learned a lot of good stuff. So why do we call them a dropout? They've learned an entire freshman year's worth of stuff. So that's better than not having done it. But they're embarrassed to go home because they'll be called a loser. So that is an example of what I mean by saying our systems are very stovepiped. Instead, what if education were modular, where I can show incremental victories? So one example, incremental victories as I go through various paths. So one example of such a modular program that we've created is called MicroMasters programs. So you all know about master's degrees. They're 1-year, 2-year master's degrees. So what is a MicroMasters? A MicroMasters, as the name implies, think of it as a Lego. It's like a piece of a master's degree. And so if a master's degree has 10 to 20 courses, a MicroMasters program might be on the order of 3 courses. So you complete the MicroMasters, you get a MicroMasters certificate. So we have a MicroMasters from Berkeley in marketing analytics. 3-4 courses. You complete that, you get a MicroMasters from Berkeley in marketing analytics. You put that on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, and you celebrate. It's victory. You tell your family, ooh, I have a MicroMasters certificate. You still celebrate. You're not a dropout. In fact, 75% of our learners are telling us they just want that credential. They're not interested in a full master's degree. The beauty of the MicroMasters is that, like a Lego, you can stack it. So what you can do is you can earn a MicroMasters program, and then if you get admitted into the corresponding degree program, so let's say it will count towards the degree. So if you complete, we have a MicroMasters program from MIT in data science. So you complete that. We have one in economics, one in manufacturing. You complete that, and that's enough. It's open admissions, by the way, with the MicroMasters. Virtually all that we do has to do with openness. Anybody can come in. Anybody can start a MicroMasters program. There's no admissions. And so let me rant a little bit about admissions. Have you ever thought to yourself, admissions and human rights? So education is a human right, okay? Let's see, let's do some 20 questions. How many of you agree that education is a human right? Raise your hands. Okay, all of you agree. Phew. Now let me do an analogy. Let's say I live in a small village in India, and there's no running water, there's a well. Water is a human right, access to clean water, so there's a well. And you go in and you have a bucket, and you fill it in the well, and then you come away. Everybody has access to that well. But imagine a world where there is this thug who stands by the well and says, I won't let you access this water. Before you can access the water, I want to see your SAT scores. I want to see your recommendation letters. I want to see if you can speak English as a foreign language. I want to look at your high school grades. I want to ensure you have a high school diploma. And the person turns away 95 out of 100 people that come in, but only admits 5. Does that sound right? No. But we do this every day at all our universities. And we're perfectly happy with it. In fact, the universities that turn away more people are considered more prestigious than those that turn away fewer people. Isn't that funny? Does it make sense? Oh, there's absolutely good rationales for doing it. The campuses are not big enough to hold 100 people. So if the well, for example, had only 5 buckets of water, only 5 people are going to get the water. I get it. But if through technology we can create an infinite well, why not everybody have access? So one thing we can do through technology is that everybody can get access. We don't need admissions. So guess what? So for MicroMasters programs, there is no admissions. Everybody's welcome. Now suddenly education begins to look like a human right. Everybody has access to it. Look, I promised you that it was going to be a bit edgy. Okay, I promised you that we're going to question things that we've been doing and accepting as very reasonable. And technology can shatter a lot of the myths and a lot of the values that we hold. So open admissions. And then, let's say you want to complete a master's degree. You want to go to campus. Campus has constraints. So you applied for admission to campus. But once you get in, the MicroMasters will count towards 25 to 50% of your campus degree in price and in time. Okay, so you can complete a full degree. So this is the beauty of modularity. And the MicroMasters program is just one example. You can do all kinds of cool things with modularity. You can share modular content. Okay, you can share. So here's one example. So the IT university in Pakistan, they wanted to launch a data science degree, but they didn't have data science faculty. So what they did was they offer 6 courses in computer science to their students on campus. You take 6 campus courses. And they work with edX. We have a MicroMasters in data science from UC San Diego. So what they do, they tell the students, okay, you complete those 6 courses on campus, and while you're on the IT university campus in Pakistan, you complete 4 additional courses. You complete the MicroMasters in data science. This is 100% online. And we will give you a data science degree. Isn't it beautiful? Now that education becomes like Legos, I can now share. The IT university in Pakistan is able to launch a master's in data science when they didn't have one before. They had 6 computer science courses, and they get in the data science component from outside. like Legos. They have some of the pieces, but not all the pieces. They get one piece from outside, compose it, and give their students a data science degree. So you can share modular content. There are all kinds of other things you can do with modular content. You can also stack it. So Arizona State University has just launched a master's degree on edX in supply chain management. And what they did was we have a MicroMasters from MIT in supply chain management. So what they did is they created the complementary part. So you complete a MicroMasters from MIT, and then you can go into a master's degree from Arizona State, also on edX. And so now we can even see stackability and sharing completely online as well. So it's really radical in terms of the kinds of things that you are able to do when you use technology to rethink education. So that's modular learning. The second thing I want to talk about is omnichannel education. So all of you have shopped Amazon, as you said earlier. How many of you have shopped at Whole Foods? I guess you have Whole Foods in Chicago too. All right. So Amazon acquired Whole Foods. So an online juggernaut, acquires about a year ago, acquires a bricks and mortar company. And this presages a future where online and in-person are going to be merging and sort of go hand in hand. So we will see the same thing for education. It's not going to be all online or all in-person. And I see three trends. And again, enabled by technology. One is online before campus, or OBC. Online during campus, and online after campus. So I'll give you some examples of how online and in-person will juxtapose with each other. So here's an example of online during campus. So both Georgia Tech and MIT have done these experiments. Now let me talk about the Georgia Tech example. So Georgia Tech, their classrooms are not big enough to hold the students that wanted to learn computer science. I suspect many of you have read this article that said Georgia Tech students are either being turned away from the Intro to Computer Science class, or the students have to sit in an overflow room and watch the professor on TV. The same thing is happening at MIT in machine learning classes. And so the class is not big enough the physical space is not big enough. So what they did was they allowed half the students to take a fully online class. So they have an online Python programming course on edX, and there's a campus course as well. Students could take one or the other. And here are some results from Dean Zui Galil from Georgia Tech. And as one metric, 82% of the learners are rating the online course better than the campus course. Results are good. It's available as an online course for the world on edX, and the campus students can also take it in place of the physical in-person course. Same thing happening at MIT, where students can take the online course or the on-campus course in circuits. And one of the interesting findings at MIT was that the students reported significantly less stress in the online course. And in case of wondering, why should an online course report a lot less stress? The researcher was interviewing the students, and they found many things that improved, really went to quality. One was flexibility. They could learn and watch videos and learn and do the exercises when they want. Second is, here's another thing. On campus, we are very used to interleaving learning, right? We have one lecture on Tuesday, one lecture on Friday, and then we sort of pace it out through the week. But do you know that our millennials prefer binge learning? I mean, how many of us know that? They prefer binge learning. They prefer to say, look, I'm going to dedicate Friday to English. I'm going to dedicate Tuesday to social studies. I'm going to dedicate Saturday or Saturday afternoon to circuits. And I'm going to divvy up my time how I want it. Why are you forcing me to do a little piece of English today, a little piece of... It's, different people think and do things differently. And one of the biggest reasons for flexibility was they said, look, we could binge learn. We could just dedicate half a day, focus on the work, and get it done. So there's new kinds of flexibilities that happen. There's active learning. cognitive science and learning science-based approaches that are being brought into the platform that enable learners to learn much better. So this is not just videos and multiple choice. This is way beyond our grandfather's online learning. There's active learning, retrieval learning, space-based repetition. There's a number of these techniques, peer learning, instant feedback. Number of these technologies that have been known to improve learning outcomes are automatically built into the learning platform. So that's omnichannel. So I see a future where in-person and online are going to be juxtaposed in a variety of ways, whether on campus or outside. The third trend is lifelong learning. So, all of us are used to education at the age of 18. We come into college for 4 years at the age of 18, and after that, you go and work. That has been sort of the traditional model. But today, you'll be shocked to learn that more than half of the learners in the US are what you might call non-traditional, that don't go through this model of study for 4 years at the age of 18. A substantial number of them study for some time and then go and work. And then they want to get credits and degrees later on. And not only that, if you look at the future of work, jobs are in newer and newer areas where you may not have studied about them in your school. Take data science. The phrase data science was only coined in 2008. And there's over 300,000 jobs for data science in the US alone. The other big trend is as automation and robots are taking away jobs, it is becoming increasingly clear that humanities is just becoming hugely important. And how many of you have heard of Mark Cuban? What team does he own? The Dallas Cowboys? The Mavericks. Mavericks. So Mark Cuban, he said something very profound. He said that in the future, a philosophy degree will be worth much more than a degree in AI or computer science. And the reason is that critical thinking, teamwork, communication, all of these important skills that you get from thinking deeply and discussing in philosophy and humanities courses are going to be super important. And so if you've had a very technical degree, in the future, these are going to be very important. And so suddenly, you're in your 30s and you say, oh my goodness, I need to do a lot better job of communications and critical thinking and so on, and where do I learn that? So there's a variety of reasons why, as society evolves, as the future of work evolves, people have to learn newer and newer skills, and so learning will become lifelong. And just imagine, once you're in your late 20s or 30s, you have a couple of kids, you have a family, what are the odds that you're going to be able to go back to campus and get a degree? Virtually zero, no way. Really, the only way to learn at that time is to be able to learn modular stuff completely online. You'll be one of the very lucky few if you're able to take off 2 years. Like they used to do that in India. They would take off and become an ascetic for a couple of years or 3 years and then come back one day. I think gone are those days. You have to learn while you work. And the convenience of online is hard to beat. And so lifelong learning will be a big part of learning. And we need these new credentials at the undergraduate and graduate level that are modular, that you can be accumulating as you learn, because you're not going to have the time to get a full degree over many years. You're going to accumulate modular credentials. So the whole online lifelong learning is going to become very important. And again, lest you think that it's all going to go online, I want you to remember, the second one, omnichannel learning, which is learning will be both online and in person. It will be a combination. It won't be one or the other. It's quite likely in your earlier years it will be more in person, and later years it may be more online, just for the convenience. So we are seeing examples of how these new modular credentials for lifelong learning are having an impact. So I talked about MicroMasters programs. And so we do surveys of the learners who complete MicroMasters programs, and we are finding that 91% of those who completed MicroMasters programs reported a positive career outcome. This could be a pay raise, a new job, a promotion. So these learners are getting value from these new modular credentials. And 47%, or rather 43%, are posting the certificates on LinkedIn. And 45% of them are adding these to their resumes as it increases the value of their resume. And so learners are now getting wise to the fact that they have to keep on learning throughout life and building these credentials and building their portfolio as they go on in life. So with that, let me close and again talk about how we need to increase access to education in a quantum way and improve education quality, and by reimagining education for modularity, for omnichannel learning, and for lifelong education, is something we can do with technology. So with that, let me end, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you. The question was that in the beginning of the talk, I talked about sustainability, how edX is a nonprofit, but we do need to be sustainable. And the question was, giving things away for free does not a sustainable corporation make? So that's a good point. And so how are we sustainable? So we have a number of ways in which we sustain ourselves. We use what you might call the freemium model. So you can come in, you can learn for the MicroMasters programs, for instance, you can come in and learn for free. However, if, for example, you want the certificate, if you want the credential, if you want the graded exams, for instance, you have to pay a fee. It's a small fee. While a master's degree at supply chain management at MIT might cost $60,000, a MicroMasters, which is about 25 to 50% of it, is only about $1,200. So it is pennies on the dollar, and so people are paying for the certificates. And so, it's still a very small percentage that pay. Most of them learn for free, a small percentage that pay. So that's one example. A second example is on the business side, we work with corporations. And corporations are looking to upskill their employees. It's called edX for Business. So if any of you are in the corporate world, let me make a pitch for edX. We'd love to have your corporation partner with edX, and you can use our courses and programs to upskill your employees. And corporates don't get the free option. They have to pay to upskill their employees, and it's small bucks that you can. A lot of corporations want leadership for their employees, soft skills, AI, machine learning, data science, analytics. All of these things are really, really hot in the industry today. Deep learning, we have all of that stuff. And these certificates and the payments for these are $50, $100, $200, really inexpensive compared to sending someone for to a university for a full degree. And these are top university level courses. So that's the other source of revenue that we have.
Thank you. Wonderful talk. I've spent some time in Ghana and Morocco in their universities where they have been using online systems. But what has been interesting is still the importance of the social interaction, and that is not individuals just doing it at home. They're choosing to come together and learn together. So can you speak a little bit about how you see the different models of, still needing to have social interaction and learning against and with the same model of, I just need to learn this at this moment, so I'm trying to log in to develop this micro skill that I can use to impact my communities?
Good question. I think the social interaction is extremely important. And how do you get that? How do you bring that in online? The two ways of doing it. One way is, I'll give you an example. So in Burkina Faso, there's a new university that's come up. It's called BIT, Burkina Faso Institute of Technology. What do? They don't have classrooms, they don't have courses. They use edX content. So they create a social structure, so people come there, people live together, work together, study together, take classes together, but the education comes from edX. And so they take our courses, and some of their instructors might help the students. So the social comes locally. It's a form of omnichannel education, where the interaction is in person, but the learning comes from elsewhere. So that's one approach where the newer models of universities, like Burkina Faso Institute of Technology. I think it's a fantastic way for a poor African country to launch a new university. Where are you going to find data science and machine learning and AI professors? Heck, you can learn cutting-edge AI from Columbia. We have a MicroMasters from Columbia in AI. So it's a way to use technology to get to where you need to be. The second approach is, remember, social does not have to be purely in person. Okay, let me introduce you to my daughter, Anisha. Okay, and you may like this or you may not like it. But she's a sophomore in college now, but ever since she became a teenager, it was difficult to talk to my daughter. And I would go to a room when she's working with 6 screens in front of her, and she would sort of ignore what I had to say, and all I would hear is sort of either a grunt or a silence. And then one day by accident, I think I must have texted something, and boom, I got a response in a whole sentence response. I said, wow, my daughter must have hit her head on, fallen down or something. So I sent her another text message, and boom, another response came to me. I said, wow, that was a life-changing experience for me. So after that, I would be texting her, and she responds. My wife insists on calling her on the phone, and she doesn't pick it up, and it makes my wife incredibly mad. And she tells me, she's not picking up the phone. I said, yeah, I just texted her. She responded. And my wife gets even madder. She said, oh, she likes you, but not me. And so I tell her, just text her. She said, no, but they should be speaking and talking. I said, sure, you can keep fighting the battle, but I think we have to reach people how they are, how they think. And so I think our newer generation, heck, people are getting mad at I won't ask how many of you have done it, but I have nieces and nephews. You can swipe left and swipe right to meet people, and people are getting mad at online. So social can be perfectly online, and heck, on edX we have discussion forums and Twitter and Facebook all brought into the platform, and you can be interacting with people all over the world socially online. Now, am I happy about online social interaction? Look, I'm old-fashioned. Okay, but that's the way the world is going. So I think you can have in-person interaction through Burkina Faso Institute of Technology-like approaches, or you can do it online through texting and WhatsApping and tweeting and WeChatting and whining and all the other 50,000 VINE, 50,000 things that exist that I'm just learning the names of.